Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Destina. This is Spiritually Bougie Astrology. We're going to be taking a look at the major astrological transits tied to September. September 2023. September's weird. September's interesting. September is a really long hangover and you don't have enough Powerade or Gatorade or Pedialyte or whatever it is you use to restore. There's just not enough. And we don't know why. Like, why are all the stores out of the same stuff at the same time? What is going on? Why aren't things jiving? Why aren't things getting delivered? Why doesn't the documentation line up? Why doesn't the math? The reason that September is a bit of a hangover is because we start the month ending the Venus retrograde. We start the month starting the Jupiter retrograde. We start the month smack dab in the middle of Mercury retrograde. The documents are here, but for whatever reason, something's not jiving. Something doesn't add up. Something isn't clear. Something is not in focus. We don't know why. People are saying things and they don't make sense. What do you mean? She's been having multiple affairs. What do you mean? There was an incident and we don't know exactly who did what and how it all occurred. We just know that people ended up in the hospital. What do you mean? We're in a very odd energy September 1st. 9-1, odd. Why? Because of the lingering effects of the full moon that happened right before on August 30th. If you listen to the week ahead forecast that did the last few days of August, went into the first few days of September, I said, like, there are elements that are not easily recognizable. They're not easily seen. Dots will get connected that don't make sense. For some people, it's because it's based off of a lie. For some people, it's going to be the start of an undoing. That's because of some of the transits. In my last 2-week forecast of August, I said that one of the elements that is going to make much more sense is the hidden transits, the aspects that were not easily recognizable because they were leading to something. That's some of the energy that we go into in the first part of September. But those hidden transits, that hidden energy to it, those hidden things, we're not going to recognize them automatically. We're not going to be able to put 2 and 2 together as fast as we want to. Many of us, it's going to take all of September to put 2 and 2 together. And it's not going to be until the end of September that we really start to take corrective actions. There's going to be some weeks that are filled still with misinformation, with misguided direction, with loops and swirls that were not anticipated. They don't make sense. How did these connections happen? What was the game plan? What was the motive? What did you really gain from telling these lies? What did you really gain from manipulating the people around you? What did you really gain by going behind your corporate office's back and trying to do these underhanded deals? What were you really going to gain from these things? What were you going to gain from your affairs and all of your secrets? What were the gains? Were there any? Was it really worth it? No clue. We're not going to really know if any aspect was worth it until the end of the month, until the end of September, until we start to go into October. These little hiccups, these speed bumps, the rocky terrain. It wasn't a speed bump. There was no paved road. This was a country road full of potholes and gravels. Mercury is still retrograde at the time that I'm recording. Gravels. Y'all know I'm a Jeeper. I say it. This is You're going up a trail. You're going up trails, rocky trails, washed out trails. We don't need mud boots to step through shit in September. We need mountain climbing boots and a rope or a good lead or a good four-wheel drive. Hope you got good tires. I hope you remember to deflate. I hope you remember all the steps you needed to take. Not everybody took steps. Some people stumbled on these trails. Some people did not do well. We're not going to recognize that at first. We're starting to see the undoing at the end of August, but we don't know the full effect of this undoing quite yet. It's going to take some weeks. It's going to take certain events to come through to make things make sense. There's a lot of energy that happens those last few weeks of August that carry into September. And once we get through the first full week of September, it's going to be dizzy. It's going to be frustrating. There's going to be misinformation. There's going to be miscommunication. There's going to be the need to repeat yourself over and over and over again, because whenever you gave your explanation the first time, either you were talking too fast or they were too stuck on one topic and you had went through 3 more since then. You're going to need the documents. You're going to need the receipts. You're going to need the proof. You're going to need the evidence. Everything that has a tangible backing to it covers your ass. If you have not been doing things in the appropriate way, everything that documents that you haven't been doing them does not cover your ass. In fact, it throws you into the water. Some of y'all gonna drown. Saturn not happy. Saturn's in Pisces. Remember, we end August and a full moon conjunct Saturn and Pisces. Saturn not happy. I did things your way for too long. Now you screwed up. And over this lunar month ahead, going all the way to the end of the month, it is recognizing where things need to change. Recognizing the issues, recognizing the problems, streamlining, compartmentalizing, restructuring, reframing, reworking, renegotiating. Got to find some workarounds. Got to find some creative solutions. You're going to realize some people should have never been to the point that they were in the process because they were never going to make it to the end. They were being set up to fail. That's a hard reality to face. There's going to be a little bit of that reality face for some people over the next month. Some might linger into October, but a lot of it's going to be in September. So, I'm going to pull up the screen. Okay. September 1st, 2:30 in the morning, so stupid early. The moon and Neptune make a conjunction, and they make one of those little secret little things to Mars. Secret, we fold it up. A secret little opposition. I bet we could pull this over. I bet if we told them this, they would go do this. Oh, did you hear about so-and-so? Did you know that they lied? Did you know that they stole? There was some type of energy. There is some type of energy coming on September 1st. It's not easily seen. It's not easily recognizable. Some people, it's a dream and it leads to an action. Especially if you have intuitive dreams. I dream things before they happen. They lead to an action. There is a reaction. We take a new medicine. We take a substance. We take something that floods our senses and it leads to an action. That's emphasized all throughout this weekend. I'm not going to go step by step the whole phase of these transits for the first. I'm mainly talking about this one particular day because the moon will conjoin Neptune. They make their little secret, fold the chart at a certain point. And they make their little secret opposition to Mars. There is actions that come through that are based off of fallacy, misinformation based off of lies. Some people are trying to do something in a big way and they're trying to take their company to the next level, but they can't get the funding, so they have to doctor their documents. They don't think they're going to get caught. They're going to get caught. There's a bit of a fallacy in some of the energies. But as that day progresses on the 1st, the moon will go into Aries and hit an actual opposition to Mars. This is important because this same energy on the 1st that I keep talking about gets activated during the full moon in Aries at the end of the month. These events here indirectly lead to the full moon events at the end of the month. So again, we're not taking clear action. We have diluted energy, misguided energy. We're seeing the effects of something and they have a negative impact, especially whenever it comes to the head. We are not thinking clearly. Mars is in its detriment. Venus is losing her mind in the spinning phase to turn direct. And the moon is in Aries. I don't know what's going on, but I'm just going to react. And the thing is, this is a holiday weekend. There's going to be a lot of people out and about. And they're going to react. These reactions, this energy from the 1st, directly impacts the sobering feeling of Venus turning direct on the 3rd. Now, that's not going to happen until later in the evening. That happens roughly between 8 and 8:30. So at 8:23 p.m. Central Standard Time, Venus is now direct. But the other thing that's happening as Venus turns direct is that we restart Mercury's second trine with Jupiter. Venus was a part of the first trine. Venus is a part of the second one. Venus rules Taurus, the moon, Jupiter, and Uranus are all in Taurus. Mercury is retrograde. Some events that occur between the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd directly lead to a turnaround in a situation, in a person, in an idea, in a decision, in a connection. For a lot of people, it's a temporary turnaround because this is the second of 3 trines with Mercury. But Venus was a part of the first one. So let's talk back about the first one. What happened around August 19th? That was the first Mercury-Jupiter trine, and that was the second Venus-Uranus square. The second one. The first one happened back at the beginning of July. Mercury and Jupiter really weren't doing anything at that time. So I don't feel like the 1st of July one affects this one. I feel like the retrograde, Venus retrograde one affects this one. Because it's literally, as this is starting, that Venus turns direct. It's like Venus gets caught doing something. It's like Venus almost falls on her face. It's like Venus has a really bad trip and ends up in the hospital and wakes up somewhere. Stabilized. Unknowingly. It's shocking. It's sobering. This energy. The Mercury trine to Jupiter is a repeat of conversations that have already been had. It's going back to somebody going, hey, remember what we talked about a few weeks ago? It hit. Things weren't making sense. I know why now. The other act could be a whole different thing. It could be tied to those same people, but another person can be involved. Mercury is retrograde. Tends to bring new people or old people into the picture. If it's old people back into the picture. Mercury is retrograde, so Mercury's not seeing things the same way he was before. Mercury's not necessarily on the same place it was before. Mercury's indifferent. Mercury is confused. Mercury's frustrated. Things don't make sense. And the thing is they should make sense here. Something's not jiving. One thing I've noticed with people is, as Mercury has been retrograde, is that it does not matter how often we say some things, how often we present the facts, we provide the receipts, we provide the screenshots, we got the proof to cover everything. You can put it in bold lighting with glitter all over it. They're not going to understand. You can have a strobe light effect of like, here's how it all connects. They're not going to understand. They weren't going to understand until they lived through, dealt with that energy and that effect and that situation. I feel like there's a little bit of that this weekend. And it is what leads to the events of Venus turning direct and Jupiter turning retrograde. For a lot of people, Venus turning direct is like, we've been working on something for so long and now we're going to finally debut it. And Jupiter turning retrograde is like, we've been waiting here for months, stationing to grab something and take it with us, but we haven't had anything to grab. This is around the day we get the grab because Mercury is returning to its trine. There is something tangible that can be made, or there can be something that is purchased that we've been waiting for. It could have been announced in August, and now here it is. The new iPhone will come out on September 3rd. I don't think it is. I just did an example. And people have the ability to grab it and take off with it. They can do something with it. But the other way is that somebody's going to show their ass. Venus is going to get sobered up, show her ass, and Jupiter will see it for the last time. Certain conversations that happen either late on September 3rd, early on September 4th, are going to lead to Jupiter's turn. So I've got this, we're getting close. 8:23 a.m. Mercury is just past its trine with Jupiter. The moon is in a square with Venus. So this is bright early Monday morning. Hope everybody's had a great holiday. Feels like a hangover. Energetically, it feels like a hangover. You might have an actual hangover. That's on you. I'm saying energetically, this feels like a hangover. The moon is going to trine the sun and square Venus basically simultaneously. So we have been challenged by a recent event, and we have to make other people aware of this challenge. This awareness provides support with the moon's trine to the sun, but it also creates a temporary pause. At least temporary in the Mercury sense. Jupiter people, if you full on, you're the Jupiter one and you make this turn, then there might not be a way back. But some people, if it's based off the Mercury side, will have the ability to come back around. It really comes down to which one you're more activated by right now. Is it the Jupiter side, or Mercury side, or the Venus side? If it's Venus, you're the one that created the challenge. Okay. Take this off of hour. Let's keep going. We're going to get to the 6th. So 2 days later, and we're going to have our Mercury Cazimi. And this is a retrograde Cazimi. So that means that the sun is the furthest point away, Mercury's in the middle, and then the Earth. There is something that is going to come to light. Something that is going to be revealed. Some type of information that's going to suddenly make sense. The other reason I say that is not only do we have the Mercury Cazimi early on the 6th, but later in the evening. So this is roughly 8:23. The Cazimi goes exact right around 6 a.m. So this is just after it. And then by evening of the 6th, the same day, the moon is going to hit the 13-degree mark and it's going to square Mercury. And then it will square the sun. and we will have our last quarter moon. The last quarter moon usually instigates a time of winding down. I've said before, like, some of us are really not going to start to see like the clarity come through until after this Cazimi. One reason is because of the Cazimi, the other reason is because of the moon. That quarter moon instigating a time of winding things down, letting things kind of fall back, getting a different headspace. The moon is also in Mercury's sign, so we're realizing something that has been previously stated, information previously provided, communication previously agreed upon. For some people, that's the day it makes sense. We get clarity. Somebody reaches back out and says, you know how you were trying to show me and tell me and I wasn't getting it? I get it now. I understand. I see your point. I see why you went that direction. I see why you made that decision. I see why you didn't want to be a part of it. I see why you took a step back. I see it now. I understand. I'm not saying one was right or wrong. I'm just saying I understand. There is physical things that can come to light, physical documentation, hidden documents, hidden reports, hidden contracts being revealed, hidden agreements being revealed, past agreements coming back around. And when I say agreements, I don't just mean the handshake deals. I'm talking about like past physical, tangible, contractual agreements. Having some aspect of it come to light and come to the surface and realizing we have to find a different kind of workaround. It's not a terrible thing. I actually like the Mercury Cazimi, especially being in Virgo, because there's been so much information that has just not been clicking. People aren't making sense. And as soon as it kind of clicks, you're going to be like, oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I need to ask again. Maybe something else can be made sense of. That can come through on the 6th. Anywhere on the 6th, maybe on the 7th. And the 7th has another reason why. So I'm going to keep this going. In the later parts of the day on the 7th, we get the sun starting its trine with Jupiter. Now, this is going to happen on both the 7th and the 8th. It kind of perfects later. So we get this energy on both days. But here it is, September 7th, 6:23 p.m. We have the sun just starting its 15-degree mark, and it is in that trine with Jupiter. Again, this is going to perfect overnight. So some of us, this is going to be the 7th. Some of this is going to be the 8th. But that clarity, that communication, that information that has come through, that challenges past confusions, especially because by the time we get this trine started, the moon is going to square Neptune. And Neptune had its hand and some of the things that was going on. There's clarity. Is it full clarity? Do we have full changed perspective? Not really. But we get the first flash of it somewhere between the 6th and the 7th. We challenge somebody's previous information. We go back to somebody saying, I understand now. The luckiest day of the year, supposedly, is when the sun makes a conjunction to Jupiter. I don't always agree with that. However, I have seen luck come through in the trines to Jupiter. There's an offer of hope and stability. There's an offer of certain things, but this isn't new support. This is understanding. This gives confirmation. I went back and I re-listened, and I went back and I reread. I went back through every single document since 2021, and I'm looking at all of it, and I'm seeing this is right. I'm seeing that what they've done over here, this was wrong. This was always supposed to be the end of the deal. This was always supposed to be how things went through. I didn't believe them when they said there was a trust, that there was an inheritance, that there was a will. I didn't believe them. But we found it. It was in that lockbox. It was exactly where other people said that it was supposed to be, but nobody actually checked. They just kept saying, Grandma did this and Grandma did that. I realize now somebody lied to me, that they weren't being honest with me, that they weren't being fair, that they weren't doing the right things. I understand now why you didn't do something that way. I understand now why you turned another way. I understand. There is a clarity, a support, an understanding, even in seeing a separation, there can still be an understanding. Like, she stayed with me now for about a month, and I don't know that I could live with her full time either. Kind of understand why you wanted to move out. I understand. Oh. Okay. Don't wish ill on anybody, but okay. Now, what happens following this gets pretty. There's no big transit that kind of follows the 7th until we get to around the 14th. The only thing I want to bring up is the 12th. And that's because on the 12th, Mercury is going to start spin. Mercury is going to turn direct. But this is a quick direct. So Mercury will be spinning at 8 degrees. I have it written down and I've just lost it. September 12th to 19th. So this is just a week. There's something that comes to light that gets understood unexpectedly. We get a whole different idea or a concept of how to work through something. And then we have the ability to start something anew. And now that comes through with the new moon. So September 14th, this is the new moon in Virgo. This is going to perfect roughly at the 21 degree mark. Now, here's the thing about this new moon in Virgo at 21 degrees. Who remembers? Who remembers what degree Mercury turned retrograde at? It's 21. 21 degrees. The new moon in Virgo will perfect at the same degree that Mercury turned retrograde. So I'm going to ask, what happened back on August 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd? 23rd is whenever the Mercury retrograde started. But there was something that came through those few days before. We didn't quite know what to think about what was coming through. We don't quite know how to take somebody else. We didn't quite know how to understand them. We didn't quite know what situation we were walking into. We didn't quite know who to believe. But over the last week, we were able to decipher some things. And by the end of that week, we get to this new moon, and deciphering is done. Clarity has been provided. Lines have been drawn in the sand. The full effects of the restructuring, the full effects of the new hierarchy, the full effects of a new agreement, a new partnership, a new contract, it's all tangible stuff. The new documentation, but like we finally found Grandma's will can still be a part of the new documentation because again, we couldn't find it before. Just using that as an example. Like everybody was squabbling, nobody actually was being logical, nobody thought to go check the lockbox. They literally just ignored it for weeks and started squabbling. We found it during the Kazemi. By the time we get to this point, like it's in front of a judge and it's like, look, here you go. And we can make new decisions. New things can happen. By the time we get to the 15th, after this new moon heralds that new thing tied back to whatever was occurring around the 23rd when Mercury turned direct. that new person, that new connection, that new relationship, that return of an old person, take the next level that was opened up, even if it wasn't on purpose. Sometimes you start a night or an event and you don't know anybody there, but then like after a 2-day retreat, like you've made friends, y'all done stuff together, like you've just had this moment. That was a really nice way to put that, but that kind of thing. There is a new connection, and this new connection ties back to the 23rd of August. On the 15th, Mercury turns direct, and the sun is in a trine to Uranus. What happened during the new moon in Leo? What happened during that new moon? Because there was something that we were really close to getting through. There was communication that we were really close to having, but we didn't get it done. We didn't call somebody. We didn't reconnect. We didn't do something. But now all of a sudden, Mercury is direct, so we're thinking logically. The other thing that happens on the 15th is we're going to start first the antitia between Venus and Jupiter, and then very next day it's going to equal an actual square. So we have this adverse reaction of different understanding, knowing somebody lied, knowing something was wrong, knowing we made the wrong decisions, knowing that we misguided somebody, knowing that we didn't do something correctly, and having to face it. Where do we face it? With this antitia energy right here, where do we face this? Oh, we face it the next day, when the actual Venus-Jupiter square starts. Internally, going up to the 16th, we know we got to make some things right. We know forgiveness will not be granted until things are made right. We know that the only way that we're going to get the full amount of our severance is if we fulfill the full aspect of a certain timeline. That new moon in Virgo could have also been a severance, by the way. Because certain things have been announced, certain things have come to light, certain things have been agreed upon. Jupiter is retrograde, Venus is direct. I'm going to move forward regardless of whether you support me. I'm going to prove to you that I can do this with or without your help. And Venus means it. Jupiter might not realize this. Venus means this. Now, the other thing that starts on these few days, but I don't really feel like activates until the 16th, but mathematically it starts the 14th. I'm going to start right here. Mars and Venus enter a 3-degree sextile. This 3-degree sextile starts on the 14th, but it lasts all the way into October 9th. So we're looking at this effect of every time Venus does something, it allows for a corrective balancing action. Every action she takes that has that comes to the surface, that comes to light, every long-term step towards fixing something, towards healing something, towards correcting something. We've had an energy towards undoing at the beginning of the month that was lingering from August. By the time Mercury is direct, we're no longer lingering. That's what happens on the 15th. These steps towards corrective action, I feel like, start on the 16th. Most degree ranges that astrologers will look at is going to be within 3 degrees. If you keep watching all through the rest of September, Venus will be from 3 to 2 to 1 degree sextile to Mars, and this will last for weeks. I like this because her being direct now offers for things to move forward even without all of the previous support. It's almost like in Venus's retrograde and all the shit she was doing, even the people that were the comfort zones, like they always were there to support, they always picked you up, they always helped you, they're not there anymore. I'm not helping you anymore. I'm not supporting you. You have no choice but to pick up your bad girl panties and walk through this and deal with your stuff on your own. You have to fix it. If I can't see that you're willing to make certain actions to fix things yourself, and it's going to take weeks, that's why I'm saying it this way, I have to see that you're willing to do certain things on your own. If you can't show me the first steps on your own to fixing something, why would I help you? There's a challenge here. There's a challenge. Show me you're actually going to do it this right this time. Show me you're actually going to change. Show me you're not wearing a mask again, Venus. You've had like 5 different faces since Gemini season. For real. Show me something without a mask. Be real. Show your authentic self. Shed the layers. Understand how much your energy is meant to rebalance things. That energy, this whole little tangent that I just did, starts on the 16th and it flows all through the rest of the month. There is, for every action, there is a reaction, but it's not necessarily in the opposition. Every time we take a step forward, we see something else that needs to get fixed. Every time we get something fixed, we see something else we need to do. Every time we do that, we see something else that needs to get fixed. There is a chain effect of getting things into an order, into a new order, to get things completed, to get things prepared, to get things ready to launch, to get things in balance. This is not a final act of purge as some other purging timeline has been. There's a lot more knowledge in the sense of like, I know every time I finish this, I'm getting closer to an ending. Every time I take this action, I'm getting closer to the ending. Every time I make a repair on the house, it's because I know a buyer is going to like it. Every time I do this thing on the car, I know somebody else, or Jeep, you know me, my Jeeps. Every modification I put on the Jeep, I know this is something else somebody's going to want. And we start taking these steps towards a corrective action, to a finalizing action that will lead to some level of a release, a purge, or a completion sometime in October. It's not even this month. It's October. So, now, after the 16th, we're going to get to the 19th. And this is when we get the exact Sun-Neptune opposition. Now, considering Venus is still loosely in the square with Jupiter, I feel like some people in this aspect can be like, it takes a few days for somebody to realize just like what steps we need to take. One of those actions can be about facing a situation. How do we start the Mercury retrograde? Mars opposite Neptune. Now we have the Sun opposite Neptune. And not only do we have Mars opposite Neptune, we also had the other Venus-Jupiter square. That was all simultaneous. Venus-Jupiter square, and then the Antisha. Mars opposite Neptune. And then we had like the rolling events of Mercury turning retrograde. That turned into a whole timeline of miscommunication and misinformation and misguided energy and misguided things that we're just now starting to take corrective action on. This feels like one of the corrective actions. It's something coming to light. It's something being revealed. It's something coming to the surface. And I want to be real clear about parts of this. Between the 19th and the 21st, Mars is going to go over its rebirth point, that last rebirth point from 2021. Specifically October 6th to October 10th of 2021. So think back to that timeline. Go back through your pictures. If you have iMessage and you can go back far back, do it. There are situations and conversations and communication that go all the way back to 2021 that are going to play into the energy now moving forward between now and eclipse season. Corrective actions leading to the new cycle energy that will really instigate in eclipse season. So, what is coming to light? What are we finding? For some people, this is a health thing. We are getting the diagnosis. We are seeing the effects of a medicine. We are gaining a new understanding. For other people, we're owning up to our mistakes. Venus is direct, Mercury is direct. The proof is in the pudding. Everybody's got the screenshots. Everybody's got the evidence, and nobody is questioning how they're thinking now. Those that have shown their ass are going to have to own their mistakes. With the sun's opposition to Neptune, there is an energy here of revealing. Revealing the flaw, revealing the lie, revealing the fraud, revealing the manipulation, finding the source of what caused all of the mistakes before. Some of us, it had nothing to do with an actual fraud or manipulation. It was a typo, of all things. And then we spent the entire retrograde going, how did this get here? Why isn't this mathing? Somebody moved a decimal. And it threw off the entire report over hundreds of thousands of dollars. And nobody caught it. It took forever to go back through to figure out where the issue was. Combing back through, retracing every step and comparing every purchase order to the log. Like we had to go back through a lot of searching. And now all of a sudden we're having that moment where we have to go back and talk to our boss and going, so all of this was because of an error. Here is the lie. Here is the error. Here is the manipulation. Here's why all this happened. Here is me telling you I made a mistake. I lied. I misled you. There's some energy with the Venus-Jupiter square again and the way all of these things have come through. There's an energy in the atmosphere of having to eat some crow, fix old wounds, fix long-standing connections that have been betrayed by temporary misguided action, by past lies, by past influence, because Neptune is retrograde. Right after the moon makes its opposition to Neptune, not the moon, sorry, the sun makes its opposition to Neptune, the sun will then enter a trine with Pluto. This happened with Mars too. There was an unclear act. There was some type of, release of a previous deception. There was us coming out of a fog. There was finding the discrepancy, finding the error and everything else. And then we had to go tell the boss. Well, if we just found the solution, then this is us going to tell the boss. Sun trine Pluto. Here to the authority figure. Hi, here's where we messed up. How did we do this? Here's where we messed up. there is some level of like ownership here, but also seeing the effects with the sun in the opposite of Neptune and then in the trine of Pluto. You mean we have just wasted an entire month's worth of payroll trying to find a mistake that was based off of a period? A decimal is a period. You get a good old redneck, they will call it a period. Somebody moved a period? Are you kidding me? There is some element of September 19th, 20th, and 21st that, again, with the Mars aspects, can go all the way back to October 2021. Of events or situations or things that we started back then. But on the other side of that, there is certain aspects of this timeline that go back to August 23rd through August 30th. That whole week. The whole first week of the Mercury retrograde. Shedding light on what has been found, shedding light on the solutions, shedding light on the corrective actions, shedding light on the mistakes. Not the easiest thing. And this also speaks to the fact that the quarter moon, first quarter moon here, 29 and 29, think back. So Mars entered Libra the 26th, so I think like the 25th, 26th, we had Mars here at 29 degrees squaring the moon. Jupiter was direct. Now we have the sun squaring the moon and Jupiter is retrograde. There is a change in this area that impacts Jupiter. It's at the exact same degrees as where the last square was with Mars. That impacted Jupiter. That led to a withdrawal. Withdrawal of an individual, withdrawal of support, withdrawal of funds. There can be a lie that comes to a service and we see just how much was affected. And again, we see how that impacted Jupiter over the last month as Jupiter went retrograde. Where before we had hopes that everything was going to go well. We bought that new stock and then we realized, or we bought a new crypto. This is more common with crypto. We bought a new crypto and it was like a pump and dump scheme. And now we lost the money. But now we know why. Now we know that it was a pump and dump. Not just because of what happened before, but because of the things that have come to the surface. Some of those IPOs that come out and just have a whirlwind effect, they're also opening their books to the public. They're also opening parts of the company up to the public. That's going to lead to things, unexpected things that they're not anticipating. The full effects of something over the last month becomes very aware to Jupiter by the time we get to the 22nd. And then on the 23rd, hello Libra season, the sun is in Libra. Now, the sun does not do well in Libra. It's actually believed to be within its fall. The sun is exalted in Aries. It's the start of the zodiac. It's the first day of spring. It's the day that the sunlight truly starts to outweigh the darkness. We have more sunnier days than we do dark times a day. Once we go into Libra season, the reverse starts. There's more darkness each day than there is light. This is where we start to bridge over. Now, traditionally, with the sun not doing as well in Libra, this won't be quite the case because we have mutual reception. Venus is in the sun sign and has been since June. She knows a lot of stuff. Now the sun is in Venus's sign. We've been made critically aware of something all through Virgo season. All through Virgo season. We had a whole change of information and perception, a whole change in communication, a whole change in the hierarchy, changes that have a launch date, that have a soft opening, a strategically planned soft opening. That's like this type of thing energy is. Venus has been in a sextile to Mars. For every time we got something done, it led to another action. For every correction we made, it led to another step. We've been taking certain steps to get something going somewhere. And this is the great date for a soft opening, September 23rd. We're just going to try it out. We're just going to make sure all the systems work. Not going to quite, do everything all at once. Let's give it a week of a soft opening. Then we'll do a real grand opening. Really? Yeah, let's just test a few things. I just want to be sure. There's some aspect where we just want to be sure. We've been burnt a couple of times. We need to be sure. We need to make sure the responsible people are at play. We need to know that the right decisions have been made. That's a part of this energy. The sun being in Venus's sign while Venus is in the sun sign means that the first part of Libra season, indecisiveness won't be a problem. The energy of the sun won't feel as negative. I don't necessarily know that a lot of people even notice a negativity in Libra season. Maybe I do because it's my 12th house. I don't even feel like that. I have a lot of Libra friends. Libra sun and risings. But we definitely feel aware of all of the steps that have been made. And even if this is on Venus's healing steps, we get made aware of things that are shaping up, that are transforming, that are being taken care of, that are being worked through. Corrective action is being taken. On September 25th, we get our third trine. Now, this is going to happen earlier in the day. We get our third trine between Mercury and Jupiter. The first one, again, August 19th. The second one happened at the beginning of the month, September 4th. The second one, Mercury was retrograde, and right after it perfected, Jupiter turned retrograde. So whatever communication came back with Mercury led to a Jupiterian turn. Now we're coming back around. Jupiter's not going to turn her back around like that. Nah, this is where Jupiter's going to be all the way until the end of the year. December 30th is when Jupiter turns direct. The end of the year. This right here is coming back around. It's like a status update. Hey, Venus is taking you seriously. Good for Venus. I'm just making you aware. You notice that awareness thing just came back up again? The moon is back in Aquarius. What happened before the full moon in Pisces? What happened just those few days when Uranus was turning retrograde? So that was August 28th and August 29th. What happened those 2 days? What words were spoken? What language was being pronounced? What was going on leading up to that full moon on the 30th that led to Jupiter's retrograde on the 4th? An awareness is being made right here. You're either learning that so-and-so is acting like a complete ass, even worse, and they've learned no lessons, but they're going in another direction, or you're going to get the status update that something is in fact starting to look differently. Something is starting to change. Something actually looks progressive and feels like it can do well. Something is getting closer to the end. What I mean by that is like if you're going through that restructure part of the company where, again, if you're getting a severance or they give like an end of the year bonus or something, like you're getting closer, or an end of the project bonus if you're like a project manager. If we're getting closer to the end, this is giving that status update to Jupiter going, you gave us a deadline. I'm letting you know we're getting closer to it. we're on task, we're at capacity, we're on track to be done on time, we're on track to be done early, whatever it is, we're on track. Okay. Still not going to give anything until it's done, but okay. Now, I want to get to the 27th. This isn't a direct transit, but it is a necessary transit to talk about. And I want to get it at the exact point so that way you guys can see the hour thing. And we're going to talk again about what happened at the beginning of the month. Oh my God. I'm telling you, there's going to be some things that the corrective action is not going to happen until the end of September. The Sun and Neptune are at that point of the sky where we had that little dance of Mars and Neptune. First of the month. Literally, it was September 1st. I showed you guys that at the beginning. I showed you that on purpose because I wanted to get to this point. The moon is back in Pisces. Where was the full moon again? 7 degrees conjunct Saturn. Is this 7 degrees? No. But at the time of this part of the transit, the moon is conjunct Saturn. The moon is going through its conjunction with Saturn. So it's like a confirmation of a certain responsibility. It's going to an elder, going to an authority figure. It is seeing the, or knowing the awareness of something. Taking the responsible steps towards a corrective action to allow for something new to finally begin. There is a newness that's going to come very quickly. Venus and Mars are at their closest point in the sextile. Their closest point to one another, working within one another. They're doing very, very well right now. They've been doing a lot of corrective action. The Sun is going to enter this contra antitia with Neptune. Right here. The Sun is not doing well, per se, would normally not do well in Libra, would normally not want to accept certain responsibilities, would normally not address certain things. But they're going to. Because this Venus-Mars corrective action thing is going on. The Sun is very, very aware of a previous indiscretion, of a previous lie, of a series of previous actions that led to certain negative events at the beginning of September. Whether that was something in grandma or grandpa's health, whether that was an incident that led to authority figures, whatever that event was, it's now getting new light shed on it right here. And certain people that were not being responsible before are going to have no choice but to accept responsibility for it now, because we no longer have certain support from Jupiter. Venus put a very bad taste in Jupiter's mouth. Jupiter got done real fast. Jupiter and Neptune both rule Pisces. What happened August 30th through September 4th? Those events are leading to something here. They are leading to a final act, a final action. We are seeing the full effects. We have a full understanding of the effects of previous indecisions, previous manipulations, previous lies. Now we're trying to take corrective action towards them, find solutions, create a different energy. Some of us, the decline of somebody started at the end of August, and we're going to reach the completion at the end of September. Some of us by now, we're actually learning is the results of an autopsy, the results of something, of tests, of labs. We're seeing a whole different effect here. There's an awareness that leads to a starting action between the 27th and I'm going to say the 30th, but it's really the 29th. Just hear me out. Okay. Oh, September 28th, really not a whole lot is going on. We get to the next day and we get to the 29th. Early morning on the 29th. So for some people, it might be late on the 28th. But for me, in Central Standard Time, we are looking at, in the overnight hours. We're going to have our full moon in Aries. Now, I'm going to remind everybody, yes, the nodes are in Aries and Libra. However, to be an eclipse, the sun-moon cycle has to be within 15 degrees of the nodes. It is not. It is 25 degrees away from the nodes. This is why the new moon in Aries that happened back in April was an out-of-sign eclipse. I'm letting everybody know that this full moon has the power of an eclipse, but is not actually an eclipse. The eclipse is going to happen in Taurus, and it is going to close a cycle that again takes us all the way back to 2021. So you're going to keep hearing me say in September and in October a lot of information about ending a cycle that we started in 2021. Ending or taking it to the next level. It's all reflective of that timeline. Now, the thing about this full moon is before it perfects, we're still going to have this secret energy. It's right here. So we're going to have we had our Antisha. I think I said it backwards a minute ago. I think I said contra Antisha. This is the Antisha between the Sun and Neptune. So there's that secret opposition. And then we're going to go into this contra Antisha energy right here, where whatever got cleared up the days before, whatever energy required us to take new corrective action forward, despite past deception, despite past lies, despite past energy, to say it that way, we're willing to take a corrective stance and corrective action forward, new actions forward. Are we completely clear on this? No. But Neptune is retrograde. It's not as powerful whenever it's retrograde. And usually we're starting things or doing things based off of past things when that planet is retrograde. So if we made a promise in the past that blew up in everyone's face, this is finishing that promise, knowing that some aspect of it was based off of a manipulation, based off of a previous lie, based off of a fraud, based off of something else. Like there comes through a start, and that has a huge karmic element whenever you say it that way. But it's kind of true. Like there's an action coming through, and this action can tie back to July. Uranus and Venus are in their third square when we have the full moon in Aries. Here is Uranus, here is Venus. This past anticipated thing, this past excitement has leading to a new trajectory here. This past, innovative idea is leading to this finally being corrected, and this correction is leading to certain actions being completed because Mars is getting closer to the South Node. Purge, release, let go, no longer ours. The other thing that happens on the 29th going into the 30th, which is why I'm saying the 30th, is Mercury leaves shadow. September 30th. I know it's 2:23 in the morning. Hear me out. That's why I'm saying like the both days. Mercury leaves shadow. We don't finally get through all of the stuff tied to Mercury's retrograde until we get through the full moon. Until we get to this timeline, until we get to the end of the month. Literally the end. That's when things can finally take a whole different action. And there's going to be some very big understandings. There's going to be some passionate turns. Uranus is squaring Venus. Venus is helping Mars. And the moon is going to be in Mars' sign in this opposition. Not only that, the moon will hit a trine to Venus simultaneously. So let me bump this by hour and show you how pretty this is. It looks pretty to me. I like stuff like this. So I'm weird. All right. This is close enough. The moon trine Venus. Venus sextile Mars. Mars is opposite moon. Venus is squaring Uranus. And Uranus is re-entering, or is finally entering its trine with Mercury. Finally, they never actually had their trine. Uranus was at 23 degrees when Mercury turned retrograde at 21. They didn't actually have a trine. Now, Mercury and Uranus had a square, and that happened back on July 22nd, July 23rd. The week, literally the weekend, within 24 hours of Venus turning retrograde. So let's talk about where we're going at the end of this month. And I'm going to put some things in perspective for some people. We get to the point at the end of this month that we start taking new actions forward. We start making the corrective actions, but really we get a lot more of them in October. There's going to be still some confusion and back and forth and ups and downs and side to side in the first part of September. That doesn't mean September is bad. We do start corrective action in September. People do start lining things out. The full effects of the fraud, the deception, and lies, those really round out once we get to the end of September, but we will really overcome some things once we get into October, and that's going to be wonderful. I'm looking forward to October. I am. I'm looking forward to eclipse season. I just know that before we can have the full blessings of eclipse season, we had to get through the Venus retrograde. I said it whenever I did the node video back in, was that July now? Sure, July. Say July. When I did that video back then, like I said, like before we can have the full gains and the full perspective of what's coming through that's new, we have to get through the hyperactive cutoff energy. We start September at the end of that hyperactive energy. But the thing is we also start September in a huge energetic hangover. It's an energetic hangover. The most that you can do in those last few days of August is trying to get some ducks in a row and making sure you have some things lined out, because, and I'm saying this on a personal level, like if you can get ahead on your activities, on some chores. I am a grown-ass adult, but whenever it comes down to me feeding the dogs and watering my garden and all that, that's a chore. I enjoy it, yes, but it's still a chore technically. Because even if I don't feel good, it still has to be done. Doesn't matter if I don't feel good, the animals still got to eat. And that's a country girl to coming from the mentality of like it doesn't matter if it's mud or sleet or snow or ice, the animals still have to eat. So if it's required, whether you like it or not, it's a chore. That's why I say it that way. Get ahead on any project, anything that you can. Clean and keep your space as tidy as you can. Channel that Virgo energy if you can. I envy you. I can't. I've tried. I do not have Virgo placements at all. I don't have anything in my 6th house, and I don't have anything in Virgo. I have 0 Virgo placements. I can survive in chaos. Not everybody can survive in chaos. There is going to be chaos. There is going to be confusion. There is misinformation. It is carrying us from the end of August all the way into the first few weeks of September. It's really going to take a lot of other people living through certain things for them to understand the warnings that were placed were necessary. They were real. You didn't know who to believe. I get that. It's like, do I believe mom? Do I believe the doctor? Do I believe the nurses? Do I believe her roommate Sue? Do I believe... We don't know who to believe. Read the documents, the screenshots, the reports. Ask for things from the hospital. Get that information. If there's a contract issue, read that contract from top to bottom. I don't care if it's not the stuff you wrote in. Be ultra clear on what you're getting into, because the thing is, somebody around you is not understanding the full effect. And they need to be educated. Some people are going to get out of certain situations just to wind up in brand new ones and repeat things all over again that they've already done. And they're not going to finally feel like they've got what they needed until the end of the month, until the end of September. There will be misguidedness. There will be miscommunication. There will be questions. CYA mentality. Have your documents, have your ducks in a row, have your stuff lined up. Be prepared to walk into the doctor. Make sure you got that medicine list going. There's a lot of things that require prep work, because when they hit, it's not going to hit in a planned aspect. It's going to go like that. Some people, you've been a horse with blinders. You have not wanted to see another person for how they truly are. And little things are going to happen. Little events that are going to hit you wrong. You're going to feel it in your gut, but you're not going to want to believe it. You're going to see it play out, and you're not going to want to believe it. You're not finally going to believe it until you see the execution. How it ends. How it affects somebody. And you realize, oh my God, you really aren't who I thought you were. You would really torment somebody like that? You would do those things to hurt somebody? I have said this before. There's going to be some parts of the energy that there's going to be a smear campaign. For some people, like it's the lies, it's the gossip. It's one person has one story, one person has another. But the thing is, it's like once you get finalized and get everything lined out, you can put two stories next to one another and you can find the pattern. Who deleted their what? Who didn't provide all their documents? Who had the additional documents to actually support their case? Who had the additional paperwork? Who had the key to grandma's lockbox the entire time and never went and got the will out? There are those that stood to gain more and those that stood to gain nothing at all. Look at those aspects too. If this person that told you the truth gained nothing, and the person that could gain everything doesn't want to lose, of course they're going to lie, cheat, and steal. Suddenly had like this Eddie Guerrero moment. I'm a wrestling nerd, I'm sorry. Old school, not so much the new stuff. They're going to do things that spiral out of Venus's energy is going to literally be like people that had open paint buckets and then the spin hit and then everything hit the wall. And once she crashed and station direct, it was sobering and sombering. At the time that I'm recording this hasn't happened yet, so it will be. But for the people that start watching this in September, they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember the 30th. I remember that weekend. I remember Labor Day weekend. This is not going to be a Labor Day weekend any of us are going to ever want to repeat. It's not. There's going to be a lot of things to it. Temporary energy is going to lead to temporary delays. Those temporary delays are going to allow for other things to be understood. They're going to cement. One of the things I love about Virgo is the mutability of Earth. Being a builder, there you go. How you can compress something with the right material and turn it from a loose sandy mix, a loose gravel mix, to actual concrete. at the beginning of August, or at the beginning, well, yeah, at the beginning, well, it was August too, but at the beginning of September, there was a lot of loose material, tangible, could be touched, could be understood, but wasn't understood. Once we put it together and the math started to math, the lineup of one conversation next to another, and we started to see the jive as to where discrepancies were and where they weren't. Once all that connects, corrective action can be made. And I don't feel like the full effect of corrective action will happen until we get halfway through September. We will be able to recognize those corrective actions once we get to the end of the month. We're not going to understand the full effects, the long-term effects of the changes and the benefits of those changes. We're not going to understand those until we get into October. And what happens in October? Venus is going to finally leave Leo. Mars is going to go into Scorpio. Remember, Mars does well in Scorpio. Mars is the ruler of Scorpio. Corrective actions will be made. Those corrective actions that start will have a larger long-term effect in that fixed Scorpio area of life, depending on what it rules for you. I don't like the beginning of September. I like the end of September. The beginning of September, I feel like I need popcorn, but I don't think I'm going to get to popcorn. I think that's whenever certain things are going to play out that I've been waiting for a long time. In my meditation, this is just me now ranting, and I'm looking at the chart again. Some of the things that I started to see over a year ago are just now playing out. I feel like a lot more of those are going to play out in September. If you are like me and you meditate and you can see things before they happen, there's a lot of things that I started to see in September that are just now playing out. There are a lot of things that people tried to talk about and work through in September of last year, and they didn't pan out. There were things that we were trying to do and start back in March that now, by the time we get to the end of September, we are realizing this isn't panning out. This isn't going to work. We have to make corrective actions. We have to do something differently. And that corrective action is going to really be felt and understood all through October. And it is going to lead to a new cycle that can finally really commence in November. But that will be the groundwork stage that starts in November. We got to lay some groundwork, new ground rules. You and I can't work together. Anyways. All right. I hope you guys are looking forward to September. I'm looking forward to September, but more so October. So be prepared. Get your sparkly helmets out. Get the extra straitjackets out. Keep your extra chargers on hand. Pack a go-away bag, even if you don't plan on going away. Make sure you have certain things lined out. Have this CYA mentality. Those very, very last little bit of August. Because once we get into September, the first few days, it's like that. It really is. So, be aware. We're going into a lot of things. We're going to feel a lot of effects. And it's going to be a hellacious roller coaster ride. And most of us, whenever the ride stops, we're going to fall out, not step out. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. And I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Can't talk. Okay. Subscribe.